item and only item on the agenda is to finalize projects to be included in the 2015 SPLOST referendum to be held November 3rd, 2015. We'll have William start.
Okay.
You can go, William.
Okay, a 6-year SPLOST will generate $50.4 million. The City of Griffin has submitted their request. I want you to know that the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners have not voted on the $22,344,000. I spoke with Kenny Smith earlier, and Kenny was going to try to step over here.
He's here.
I was just hiding. But it has not been voted on. This was the direction he was given from the board, but I do want you to know that they have not formally voted on this, but these are the best numbers we have. City of Orchard Hill, City of Sunnyside, you were here when they made their presentations as well. If you take the $50,400,000 and subtract Griffin, Sunnyside, and Orchard Hill, that leaves $27,212,118 to be disseminated among $59,945,470 worth of project requests. So I do know that the board had talked about bond financing, the debt service payoff, $3 million worth of debt service that would reduce general fund and fire district fund each by $500,000, total of about 0.93, 0.94 mils. We talked about financing the CAD system. I put $120,000 in for the nutrition program where we're spending money on that. I put $675,000 in for the judicial computers and software upgrades that the clerk of court and the judicial system asked for. Bond issuance cost and interest of $330,000, so that takes $5,195,000 off the top. So it leaves us about $22,017,000 to go between transportation, pickleball, IT, fire department, ACAB, library, park and rec, sheriff's department, 800 megahertz, and substandard housing. And that's where y'all get to decide where we go from here. Can we make an assumption that the debt service projects, the bonded projects are correct and move from there, or do we need to talk about bonded projects first?
I would like for us to talk about bonded projects. But first, if you could help re-explain to me and explain to the audience too, how do we come about the figures of how we make this split from this $50 million? How the split is made between the county, the city, Orchard Hill, and is it a percentage? Or?
No, ma'am, there's no percentage. It's strictly, these are essentially close to or almost exactly the same numbers that the cities, I think for Sunnyside and Orchard Hill, they're exactly the same that they submitted for the SPLOST that failed in November. I think the city is very, very close to their numbers. There is no set amount that has to be. In order to have a 6-year SPLOST, you must have an intergovernmental agreement. So all 4 entities, the City of Griffin, City of Sunnyside, City of Orchard Hill, and Spalding County must agree to the distribution. But there is we have no Category 1 projects, no Category 2 projects. So there has to be an intergovernmental agreement to go 6 years, and we would like to go, you all voted to go 6 years. So once these projects are decided, then the lawyers will have to come back with an intergovernmental agreement that will need to be signed before you can adopt the resolution calling for the election.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I think that, I had mentioned yesterday some items that were on this list that we could possibly look at what the cost would be to bond some of these issues. There are some items probably on this list that, just me as an individual commissioner, would probably think that it's really not, at this time, I don't think that it's appropriate for us to do these particular projects just because I don't think that the need is as great as in other places. I'm not sure what the Carver Road Splash Dog Park is. I don't know if that's something that was on our list immediately, but at this time, I'm really not interested in pursuing that. I know that it's.
That was alternative proposal proposed by staff,
So,
so we can mark that one out. If everyone's in agreement. You want to go, it looks, if we're going to start with things we're not going to consider, is that what y'all would like to do? To
Work our way down.
work your way, you want to go down the list, or you want to just say,
Let's start at the top. Instead of going down the list.
oh, well, nobody said anything.
Well,
so
I'm
just
not trying, I'm not, I mean, that way we know where we're at instead of skipping around.
Okay.
Well, I'm in favor of the bonded projects that William prepared here in the executive summary. And I'm particularly favorable to it because of the analysis provided to us a couple of months ago that if we do this and pay off this debt, that there is then a very good prospect for a millage rate decrease in 2016. 17. Yeah, 17. Somewhere between, on the low side, a half a mil, and on the high side, maybe 1 mil decrease.
up to a mil, 0.94.
So it's not, we'll have to wait and see how everything sort of shakes out, of course, with the property digest, comes up with, but contingent on that, of us going forward with that understanding that if SPLOST passes and these projects are bonded, that the tax savings will be plowed back into a millage rate decrease. I'm in favor of these bonded projects.
So, William, the tax relief is actually going to come off from the debt service payoff, or is it going to come off from?
The debt service payoff. We'll pay off the Oxford Square, or what I call the Cook Shopping Center. We'll pay off the correctional institution. We'll pay off the lease purchased materials that we did from computers, thank you, computers and furniture at the senior center. That's all out of the general fund. And then in the fire district fund, we would pay off the L.B. Norton Fire Station, and we pay off the fire apparatus that we bought over the last few years. So we would reduce the fire district fund would have zero debt service, and that's about 0.56 mils. And the general fund, the big purchases, the Oxford Square, the correctional institution, and computers and things like that, would result in about a 0.37 millage rate reduction. So that's where the savings would come from those, strictly from the debt service.
Okay, I agree with that. Actually, I know that the nutrition program will actually be a reimbursement for us. We did a resolution for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And the other items that are bonded, I think that are absolutely necessary are the judicial software upgrades and E911 CAD system. I had spoke with you the other day about what the actual cost would be for us to bond more items out of this list.
Yes, ma'am.
And the reason I ask about that is because there's a couple projects on here selected or really you know, it's kind of gonna be not a good thing if we wait until 6 years down the road to do something about it. We had talked about the water park aspect of the swim facility, if that's chosen. And if that is chosen, I would prefer that at least that portion of that project be bonded initially so that it will start generating revenue. I think we had that discussion. And on the other side, I would also like to ask that a certain amount be bonded for the rehabbing of the Rosenwald School, because each day that we don't touch that school is another day that it's crumbling. I know that the entire project, I of course support the entire project at the Heritage Fairmont project, but I think starting some immediate work on the Rosenwald School is going to be imperative. So it would be my suggestion that we bonded that. Of course, like I said, I don't know what the numbers would be in terms of what it's going to cost us. The other thing is that we had talked about the pickleball facility because of the revenue it's generating in other places that it's located. We're in kind of in a cornerstone place right now where there is not a facility really within good driving range of here. And if that's something that we choose to vote on, you know, in a year's time, that project will be obsolete, because certainly Macon or Peachtree City or Fayetteville or whoever that's close to us will be able to build that before we would. So, you know, if that were the case, if that is selected, I would certainly like to at least see those projects bonded initially, just to get things rolling on some of these projects.
That'd be roughly $6 million, utilizing the same methodology and just averaging. It would probably add $400,000 for interest, so you bump that 5.1 to 11.8 to do those two.
To do the Fairmont project?
Oh, no. The pool, and I was looking at the pool is 4 point.
But I wasn't talking about the aspect of the pool that is an actual indoor facility. I'm looking at, there's a water park portion of that is included in that we were basing our revenue generations on, the bulk of our revenue generations.
Okay, but they're really tied together. There's no way to build part and part.
I asked TJ about like the splash pad component of the aquatic center versus a standalone splash pad. And he informed me that, and he's here, I guess we can call him up to answer questions, but he told me that they're two completely different things, and it would be very difficult to build, you know, the splash component of the proposed aquatic center and immediately, and then build the rest of it later. So that, I mean, that's just what he told me. But I would agree with you. You know, if it was chosen, that pickleball facility, there's a window of opportunity that exists, not just for this, you know, South Metro area, but I think for the entire state, as well as, you know, really the entire Southeast region for a facility like this. And somebody's going to step in and fill that need, to fill that opportunity. Frankly, if it's not going to be bonded, I don't see the need, and built immediately so it can start generating revenue through tournaments and things, and the hotel motel tax, which once we get it through the legislature, you know, properly this next session, and raise motel taxes to 8% of from the tournaments that thing will attract, and the revenues that it will generate from them. If we don't build that, you know, and have it ready to go, then we're missing the opportunity to you know, acquire those revenues and get it to start paying and and adding to the tourism and a budget and to some extent the general fund. But, yeah, and I've been out to see the Rosenwald facility too, and I tend to agree that, if we're going to do Heritage in Fairmont, I mean, that thing is just, it could be glorious, it could be beautiful, and it probably was in its day, but it's really crumbling.
Madam Chairman, would you mind if we ask TJ to come up so we can ask him a question about the Rosenwald project, if possible?
TJ's hiding there.
I see him. Hey, TJ.
Afternoon.
Hey, TJ, that project is like slated for $1.9 million.
Yes, ma'am.
And the renovation of the gym and the restoration of the actual Rosenwald building, do we have any idea, is that 1.5, is it 1.2, is it 900,000?
Be looking at, who's to me that could be asbestos abatement would need to be part of that. Removing of the structure, so that's the first one is 100,000. The second item would be 30,000. So now we're just talking about Roosevelt and not the school, not the gym portion, is that correct?
No, so this includes all the gyms, the pavilions,
Okay.
and everything, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, okay, so you want all the Heritage Park portion?
Well, I was asking, how you had this done together, what it would basically take us to at least, to look at trying to start working on that building immediately and working on the gym immediately if we were able to bond that.
Okay. Probably just working on the building portions, 600, somewhere around $700,000-800,000 is what I'm looking at here.
And the rest would be towards the gym and the
That would
park
include
area.
that would include the gym portion.
Gym portion's 500,000.
500,000.
For the model of the gym, and 30,000 in tipping fees if we were to
Right.
take it down.
And asbestos is 100,000, and then working on Roosevelt itself is 60,000.
Okay.
So that's roughly, give me that figure.
Overall project is 1.758, right?
1.9 million overall. Yes, sir.
Overall.
So that'd be 700 and something thousand.
Well, I just think it's kind of a waste to put this in a place where, it's just my opinion, that we're possibly 6 years down the road. So, if that's the case for that, I would suggest that we look at the numbers that William just looked at. He said it would add about another, $400,000 to the bond cost to do the, to bond the road, the Heritage project
So I was talking about the pool and
Yeah,
the,
he was.
and the Heritage project. And that would have been how much more money?
about 400, but it's,
Pay out the pool.
Does that include the pickleball too? You mentioned the
No.
pickleball.
No.
It does not.
Doing all this work in Fairmont, you know what the light bill is gonna go up, what the electric is gonna cost to do this, and how much it's gonna cost? How many more employees are we gonna have to have?
Fairmont or Heritage Park, or the
Do both
project
of
as a
them, do
whole?
both of them, I mean.
I believe I put the Fairmont actual gym prices in the presentation on the electric, in reference to the air conditioner and that type of thing. The Fairmont portion, the improvements there, it's just normal maintenance that we're doing now. Over at the Heritage facility, well, we're already cutting the grass over there. So I don't know about utilities because we don't know exactly what we'll end up with, but we're already maintaining the property.
You maintain the property,
I'm cutting grass there every 10 days or
there won't have to
so.
be anybody hired to put that.
No, not for the same type of maintenance we're doing now.
And that's more than cutting grass. So we won't have to hire anyone cutting crew, have to have new lawnmowers and stuff. You gotta look at the big picture.
I'm currently maintaining the turf at that facility.
So the air conditioning option is on here.
Right, for the existing Fairmont gym. Now, when we open the other facilities up after we remodel them, you know, we haven't completely figured out exactly what we're gonna be doing, how much usage, that type of thing. That is not factored in at this time. But I would anticipate that we would be recovering some cost and additional operating costs because those facilities could be rented for large functions.
If you come up with a cost, what it cost you be renting it for, it's gonna make it profitable to do it. I mean, just can't open it up to, you know, say, I mean, like the senior building, we set the rate so high that it didn't rent out to start with.
Correct.
Having a hard time renting, but you don't wanna give it away, but you gotta have somebody there, you gotta have lights, electricity, somebody being there extra time. So these are things that's got to be figured into it too.
Okay, we could definitely give opinions on what we think the market would allow in that area, just depending on, you know, because I would envision class reunions, weddings, stuff of that nature over there at that facility. Because it would be pretty nice, I believe.
Because there's really no place on the north side that has a facility that will hold any number of people. That would be nice.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, you cleared that up for me. Well, in that case, Madam Chairman, since there's not a possibility of doing anything extra with the pool until the later funds come in, my suggestion would be that if we're in agreement that the Fairmont project should go, that entire project be bonded along with the pickleball court, so that can be built immediately. And I think William said that total cost would be about $250,000 in addition.
Interest cost.
Interest cost.
Interest cost.
So what would be the total on the bond issue if you added those, the pickleball court and the Fairmont?
And Fairmont, there's 1.9, so 2.9, and we're currently financed for $5 million. So about half that. I'd still say 250,000. So, so yeah. I knew y'all were gonna do this.
I'm sorry.
You brought your calculator with you.
Yeah, 250.
So roughly about $7 million would be bonded, not counting. So it'd be $8 million with the pickleball court, right?
It would be about 8.4. Can we stop right there for a second? And, because that'll carry on down. Is everybody okay with those projects to be bonded?
No. I don't think pickleball should be bonded. I don't agree that the pickleball should be included in this SPLOST at this point in time, and this is why. William, we've identified how many, what's the total cost of the projects identified on the spreadsheet for Spalding County?
Total cost, $59,945,470.
And we basically have somewhere between about $27,212,000 to work with. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I sat down and we talked about this, and we pulled things off the M&O for the next 5 years in order not to try to remove things from the M&O maintenance and operation budget, which then removes it from the taxpayers. We've done that. So therefore, I look at the priorities of where are we going to make the biggest impact for the largest number of Spalding County citizens that may or would support the SPLOST. I look at that as being public safety. I look at that as being roads. I look at that as being the debt payoff, 911, transportation, and the IT portion of what we have, and the judicial system, because that's going to impact everyone in town. And when I hear that we want to, when I hear some of the things that are being recommended, I'm kind of, I'm a little bit flabbergasted, especially trying to bond it right now. We need to look at what is best for Spalding County with the money we have versus what we want for Spalding County. And that's where I'm going to be coming from today.
And let me just kind of comment a little bit on and I totally understand your position, Mr. Ray. And for the most part, you know, I agree with that sentiment. But along with SPLOST money, you know, I do believe that there is a sense of quality of life and a benefit to citizens that we have to also provide. And, you know, there are some features that Spalding County that we need that's going to help economic development, that's going to help bring people here to the community, that's going to put money back into the community, and something that we can be proud of. And so I think there should be a shared component in both of those aspects. And some of these projects here need to be included. So I don't want us to, let's just kind of focus on definitely what you're saying, but also the things that are going to bring the community together as a whole, that's going to bring people here. And then once again, it's about quality of life as well. And those things you mentioned are also quality of life, but other benefits as well, as far as the service to the community.
My thing is, I'm not really against anything. I wish we had money to do all this stuff. I am not in favor of anything that's going to be a burden to the taxpayer. Where we got to hire new employees, things that's going to make the 3/4 of 0.9 mils that we may give in reduction to the taxpayers. We have to go back in 2 or 3 years and add it back to it. I have been on the outside of Spalding County, north side, for the last about month, cutting wheat and stuff. I'm telling you what, I've seen more nice houses up there. I'm talking about nice houses, not only in my district, but in Mr. Hallbaker's, not in Sun City, but in out for sale signs. I've looked at 28, I wrote down the addresses, and you know, it's unbelievable. And I stopped with a couple of these people in my district and asked them why they were selling the house. He said he's getting ready to retire. He said they can't afford to live in Spalding County. When I retire, I will not be able to afford to live here. Y'all don't know how to spend money. Well, I'm not going to disagree with you. I mean, it's just like, you know, our budget. We did right for employees for 3 or 4 years, and what we do, first thing we do, we get a new budget come up, we hire 4 people back. I mean, the people in the county that got jobs, they work. They know they got a job and they have to work. It's not a homestead place, a place to just lay around, and everybody knows that. And the employees know it. They come to do a job. You just don't stack people on top of people to stand around and watch. Like the highway department, you see 4 people out there in one show. You know, people see this and they realize we've got to learn how to cut expenses so people do not leave Spalding County. Why do you want to come here? I mean, we got the highest school taxes, we got some of the highest property taxes that are around. We've got to learn how to cut expenses, and I'm not going to vote on anything that's going to cost the taxpayers any money. I'm not against anything at Fairmont. I'm not against the pickleball court, as long as it doesn't cost us more employees. I mean, these people that are working for the county have got a job to do. And if it takes it to keep their job, then they need to be prepared to do it.
And when we build this community, we will have people actually coming into the community as well.
Well,
Don't forget that.
Right, but you got to have them want to come here. If you got some of the highest property taxes in the state, people are not going to come here to live. That's the reason people, when you get a business here, they go to Peachtree City, they go to Henry County to live. They don't live here in Spalding County. And if they don't live here, they don't spend tax money. They buy groceries someplace else. And these are things we need to be looking at.
Madam Chairman, I appreciate what Commissioner Miller is saying. However, the money that's collected by the SPLOST is the people's money, not the taxpayers' money. This money, 40% of this money that's collected comes from people outside of this county shopping in this town. So that means if you don't own a home, but you still buy a car, you still buy clothes, you still buy groceries, you still buy gas, those are your dollars going into this fund. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not about the taxpayer. The taxpayers are going to get some tax relief from the immediate payoff of this debt reduction as of 2016. But there are other people who live here. And the reason we're in the shape that we're in now is because we haven't done anything. My sister lives in Washington DC. When she retires, she's moving to Georgia because her retirement will get her further here. Maybe those people feel like their retirement will get them further in Peachtree City. I'm sorry they're moving, but we still, the rest of us that are here still need to have some sort of quality of life. And so, you know, I stand by my thoughts that this project at Fairmont and at the Rosenwald School, while it may not draw people here, once we get them here, it's just as important as Dock Holiday, it's just as important as the Roosevelt Railroad, because it has a national history associated with it. And this is one of the few schools that are still standing in the United States that was built for African Americans in this country. And there are actually people in this country and from other places that are interested in seeing that as historical data. So that's important. You know, I really appreciate the heartfelt sentiments too that, you know, Commissioner Ray has that, and I believe that that's exactly how you feel that what you think is important. And that's what makes us such a good board, because some people are really concerned about this and some people are concerned about that. And I'm also concerned about the debt service. But I look at this as an opportunity for us to change what we look like, not only to the people that live here, but what we look like to people on the outside. I think many of these projects, based on recommendations from our staff, which I trust immensely in terms of their estimations, there's no guarantee, nothing's guaranteed, will generate income. And we won't be burdened with, you know, excessive costs. But, you know, just like anything else, you got to do it and see how it works. You can't talk about it and think about it, because if you knew the outcome and how life was going to be, you could live that way, but we don't know. So, did you want to have a comment, Don?
No, well, I would just say that, at least from my perspective, what I've seen in the community and the district that I represent, we have a difficult time in this county competing with, you know, Henry, Coweta, Fayette, because those people have exemptions from school taxes at 65 or so that we can only envy. And I mean, they're out of paying school taxes. And, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, point the finger, you know, at our school district. We are where we are. And I tend to believe that if exemptions were put in place, you know, at 70 or 72 or something, that communities like where I live, the retirement community, growth would accelerate even more. But that's something that is for way down the road, and it would require, obviously, not only us and the school district, but local enabling legislation from the Georgia Assembly. So that's just my perspective on why there's such a heavy tax burden and why, for retirement purposes, it's a difficult place to retire.
Commissioner Ray,
Madam Chair, we're here to discuss the 2015 SPLOST, not the school taxes. And I would suggest we move on.
okay.
If that is the case, then I would like to make a motion. Let's see how it flies. We're trying to look at things that will generate income. I would like to make a motion that the projects that are going to end up on our bonded list are the debt service payoff, the E911 CAD phone system, the senior nutrition program, which is for reimbursement, judicial computers, software, issuance of interest costs, the Fairmont Community and Heritage Park project, the pickleball court, and the lights for the soccer field.
I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
Madam Chairman, I added the lights for the soccer field because the soccer organization has showed us that they can generate income that will help increase our SPLOST. They've been waiting for lights for for I don't know how long, and we know that they can bring tournaments that will help increase our SPLOST production, increase our hotel motel tax, all of which we're hoping to get an increase on that. And that was why I already talked about the other items, but that's why I added that to my motion. Because at $400,000, you know, they could have lights, and if this passes in a month.
Any discussion?
Okay. I do have a problem with the list identified there, but I can vote for it if we can add the Sheriff's Department gang reduction and intervention program vehicles and equipment.
I'll support that.
Can I ask you one thing? The equipment for the sheriff's department, is that, once they get that, are they gonna, seeing he's an elected official, will he be able to go ahead and hire the people?
No, sir.
This is just the equipment.
It's just the equipment.
We can't pay the salaries of the SPLOST funds.
Well, I know we can't, but that doesn't mean that he can't add it to his budget. This is one of the things that,
How will those vehicles be used up before
Right.
you have personnel to drive?
right.
Is what you're asking. A
Well,
vehicle and
basically,
equipment.
I would think, if I may, can we ask?
Yeah, I don't
tell
have a problem.
Captain John to come up?
Yeah, that's fine.
Captain John, you heard the question.
Yes.
Would the equipment be used prior to personnel being hired?
And I'm not exactly sure how a SPLOST works. We wouldn't be able to purchase the equipment until the money was in, is that correct?
Well, no, they were gonna issue bonds, so in January, we could buy the equipment. But my problem with that is we don't have the people, so,
If we don't have the people to put in the vehicles, why do we want to go ahead and have to buy gas and insure them at that point? That's my only question.
Okay,
so,
I can withdraw that as long as we support this program in the SPLOST.
Can we designate that as like a level 1 project?
well, let's,
Or you want to take them as we go, or you taking them as we go?
well, you can't really designate a level 1, but we can decide where the funding goes, which will be priorities. We can decide priorities after we decide what's there.
All right.
May I
Go ahead.
ask a question?
Yes, say it.
Since we were considering the 270, how do you feel about adding the tower to it and bonding it in lieu of the 270 to stop the $100,000 a year rent on the tower?
Save some money. That's not a bad idea.
Just a question.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome, thank you.
Captain Littlejohn,
Yes, ma'am.
before you go. I hear what you're saying about the having the vehicles. But if and I was gonna bring this up at our meeting on Monday, which I know there are people on this board who are not for hiring any other personnel. But I thought it would be prudent if we at least were able to hire one. You had an officer who was doing half sheriff work and half gang task force work.
He does majority sheriff's office, he's crime scene investigator, so he's on call, and he has to go out on calls when they need a crime scene investigator. And in his downtime, which is not very often, but in his downtime, he does work gang cases. He keeps up with statistics and kind of keeps up with what's going on and does the investigations that he can do.
Well, I was wondering, what I was going to ask is, how proficient would it be for the sheriff's department as far as recording if you had someone, an officer that was full-time dedicated to looking at gang activity in the county, doing the recording, being a liaison with other gang activities in the city, and then purchasing the equipment that they need immediately?
Before I answer that question, the sheriff and I have not talked about anything like that, and I would like to know his thoughts on it before I made any statement to the board.
Well, I did talk to him about it.
So I don't really know what his thoughts are.
But this is what I was going to bring up Monday. So my point is that maybe if this doesn't make it today, some portion of it might, if that happens.
Well, let me say this, on the equipment. If we were to be able to purchase the equipment now, we have several vehicles that are in service now that have very high mileage. And they're beginning to cost us money in vehicle maintenance more than just routine maintenance, transmissions and things like that. And I don't know how the board feels about this. If we, at some point, we're going to be able to replace those vehicles with budgeted funds, because it's just going to come to a point where we have to do that. If we were to be able to purchase these vehicles now, we could use those in those places, and then in the budgeted funds later on, replace the vehicles that we replace these with, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me ask you, what's about all those cars they got lined up on the side there? And there's probably 10 or 15 cars. Yeah.
There are several of those that have been deadlined and they're waiting to be auctioned. There are some, I don't know if you're familiar now, we do have some vacancies in our Uniform Patrol Division. And those cars are the cars that would be assigned to those officers if we had officers to fill those positions.
So some of them are operable.
Yes, sir. They are absolutely in operation. They're just not being used at this time.
To me, they ought not be back in that fence, they'll be back that front where somebody can look at them. They running vehicles and stuff. I look at that as stuff that's junk or stuff that needs to be sold. I don't know why, I just take for granted that, you know, you got a line of all these cars right
Right.
there.
All the cars that are not in service right now are in the back. We put them in there for two reasons. One is we don't have the parking space inside the fenced area where the employees park. And the other is that's a secure area with the fence and the concertina wire on top.
Okay.
So it's secure.
Okay.
So if we put those 4 or 5 cars in the employee parking lot, employees would have a place to park. So to
But
get in.
there are some of those vehicles that would be used if you had people.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Right, okay.
So
I just saw all of them back there, and I took for granted that, you know, those were cars that were.
Anyone you see back there that doesn't have a top light on it, it's out of service. So when you see a top light on a car, it's usually in service, just not being used.
Okay.
So just to kind of clarify what you were saying earlier, instead of using the $270,000 budget for the vehicle equipment, you would want to use that to basically just to replace other vehicles that you have right now
That are soon to be
soon to be
replaced. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And then down the road, when you're able to give us the personnel, then maybe we can use budgeted funds to replace those vehicles so the incoming officers can have decent vehicles to use when they're on patrol and doing their investigations and what have you. Does that make sense? If I'm-
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Let me ask you one more thing. And I brought this up before, and it's not that I'm against the gang thing. I just still think that it should be a joint thing between the police department, which would cut down on the number of people that y'all would have, the police and the sheriff department. I mean, the sheriff department is elected to do the whole county.
Yes, sir.
And this thing in the flat down there, where the police work one side and the sheriff works the other, it's not very good. I don't know how to say it, but it doesn't look good for the county that the police work one side and the sheriff works the other, you know. And I've heard this, it's been said here that the sheriff, they at the store, they go across, well, they call the police department and tell them that on the other side. I mean, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but it's not a very good room to have. To me, it should be, if the sheriff department and the police department work good, it would save the sheriff department from hiring those people. And also, it'd be a joint thing between the city and the county.
And I'm not sure what the sheriff's feelings are on that, and I don't know if he's talked to the chief about it.
No, I hadn't talked to anybody.
Right.
I brought this up before, but
Right.
when they brought it up. And to me, it just seemed a lot more feasible to work together, because most of your gang problems are in the city to start with. I'm not saying they're all
Yeah.
in the city, but, you know, the biggest part, if they work together, to me, it would be a more efficient way of handling it.
Yes, sir. I see what you're saying. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Madam Chairman, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to amend my motion to include the moving of the 800 megahertz equipment tower, which is $426,400, to the list of bonded projects. That was what you suggested, right, William?
Yes.
Can I ask you one other thing?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever check on the one that was out, the other tower that we're paying the money for, about moving it to the industrial park?
Yes, sir, that's what we're talking, this is it.
What about the one at McDonald though?
McDonough would be moved and.
Is that both of them? That
No, sir, this is just one, but it would free up enough stuff for us to move another one. Essentially, you've got to buy a whole new tower and erect everything and cut it off and then move the equipment in the little building, the electronics. You build a whole new tower with antennas and everything and you set it up and then you move the electronics. So we would have spare stuff, so only we would need is just the tower for the next one.
See, I
And we can-
think there's a lot of money that goes in it. What's the name of the road?
What? Wild Plum?
Yeah, it may have to be moved because of the airport anyway.
Correct.
So, you know, that would be something that we, you know, to me, that one and the one out on McDonald Road that we're paying the megabucks to.
McDonald Road is the most, we were tackling them one at a time. That is the
Yeah, but if
most
you got the money
expensive.
here, you may tackle it, but if you only go ahead and sign it to the splash, it would be something that 2 or 3 years down the road, you would already have the money to do it with. These are, you know, and you talk about freeing up, you know, $40,000-$50,000 a year just on one on Wild Plum, and it's more than that, I challenge.
Yeah, it's 100 on the McDonald Road, and it's about 65 or 70 on Wild Plum.
Yeah.
So should we, you wanna go over those projects again before we go?
Yeah, we done talked so many, I forgot which ones we got.
Bonded areas?
Okay.
Mhm.
The original $5,195,000, which included debt service, CAD 911 phone system, senior nutrition program, judicial computer software upgrades, issuance and interest costs, plus Fairmont, 1.9 million, pickleball, 970,000, soccer lights, 460,000, and tower, 426,400, plus any additional interest cost estimated to be 250 to 300,000. So we'll have to get that from the bond council, but that's an estimate.
With that, you've already got a first and a second.
So, did I hear, William, you did say the judicial system.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And William, I think people need to realize that we don't display, the taxpayers gonna have to do this, like, we have to pay for these things.
Yes,
It's got to be something that's got to be done, and that they need to realize that.
the 911 in particular, the $1 million and the 675,000, those
Upgrades.
will be done regardless of whether or not SPLOST passes.
And
They
if
have to be done.
it's not done, the
And if
taxpayers.
SPLOST is not passed, then we will lease purchase them and put additional debt service in the budget for 17.
So how much total have you got here? I thought we had the equipment, I thought for the sheriff
He
department.
decided not to because,
Oh, you decided not to?
He
Yeah,
took it out.
Well, she was talking about the cars, to replace cars that
they're
they
not
got.
using for what it's on here.
Not-
If that's the case, we can use the cars that the personnel we don't have aren't using.
And that should probably be a general fund.
Yeah, not.
Okay. So how much you got there?
That's 7, 8, 850, 9, probably 9,300,000. Yes,
They count, they include the interest,
yes, sir, I did include the interest.
so that leave us with,
27 minus 9 is roughly 18.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. All those in favor, any more discussion first off? Okay.
I will say now that I do support the majority of the programs that have been identified for bonding. I do not support the pickleball for bonding because I do not think it's that important. I don't think it's that important a need in Spalding County, therefore I will vote against this.
I'll take ours and flip up.
And I'm gonna vote for it for the reason that we're not gonna have to hire any new employees. And if they do, somebody better be eating their words. I can tell you that right now. You may hear the end of it.
Okay, all those in favor? 4, all those opposed? All right, moving on.
$15 million.
15 million, slice it down. All right, so you want to go ahead and hit the transportation next?
Want to do transportation then? Y'all tell me.
I
Or
really,
get projects now?
I really like to see that other tower put on there, will you?
That other tower put on pay-as-you-go or
Right,
put
pay
on?
as you go.
Okay.
It's a bond. Pay as you go.
Need to settle down a little bit, please. Okay.
Okay, we can do that. I just, if y'all want to do that, we'll put another $426,400 for that other tower in pay-as-you-go, so we're down now to, what, 8 million? 8.5?
No. No. We had 18
I'm sorry.
million.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Gentlemen, we need some help.
No, I'm gonna go get a calculator, because y'all ain't gonna do this to me this time.
All right, we'll take 2 minutes.
We're not trying to.
Okay, while he's doing that, you want to maybe go ahead and look at the projects now? In what area, how do you want to do this?
I mean, I would like to look at the Animal Care and Advisory Board project. You know, there's 2 different projects on here. One's $2 million and the other one's about $800,000 less. And the renovation project doesn't give as much square footage as the brand new one. But, I mean, I think with the, you know, with how we're going to try and do the new animal shelter and with the leash law and spay neuter ordinance. I mean, I don't want us to be building a facility where we can keep everybody's dogs. The goal is not to be able to keep more animals, it's to try to keep in a more humane
control.
way. Yeah. So hopefully that, you know, those things that we've done will cut down on that. And I mean, I think that I support the renovation of the current facility, the second recommendation by the Animal Care and Control Advisory Board.
I'll
And that's
second
the
that.
pay-as-you-go.
Yeah, pay as you go.
So not build a new animal facility, but just revise it?
Yeah, I'm good with the proposal to renovate the existing facility. In my understanding from those on the APF, including the chairman, who's the principal designer or estimator for the project, he said they'd rather go with the lesser amount of modification of the existing facility.
So, Williamson working on the figures there, so. We'll give him a second, so we can know what we're working with.
No problem.
Okay, I feel sorry for you, I'm leaving. This is bullshit.
All right. We're at $18,050,000. $18,050,710.
Okay.
What did y'all do while I was gone?
Animal shelter.
At 1.2,
1.8,
1.18,
1.185.
but they didn't what, Kathy?
No, we were just discussing. Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Okay, Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the Animal Care and Control Advisory Board's recommendation to renovate the current facility at the animal shelter for $1.185 million.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. All right. Is that animal?